Podcast, right?
What's that?
It was your podcast this morning. I'm looking, right?
There's four of them.
Oh,
Put
there is. Okay.
four podcasts on Ekha. After tonight, if we do it tonight for an hour now, it will set you up for listening to the podcast in a strong way.
Beauty.
So, Ekha, everybody open it up and realize that Ekha is an acrostic. When you know that it's an acrostic, it's 5 acrostics. The first acrostic is Aleph to Taf. You know what an alphabetic acrostic is, Mars, correct? By now you know what it is. I'm sorry? Alphabet Gimel, exactly. But if you look at your chapter 1, you'll see that it is exactly an acrostic. It's not close to an acrostic. It goes no letters are missing from it. It was on my desk. There are these. You didn't see anything on my desk on top of the books? Not on my desk, on my table. There's books. My book.
Acrostics. They were acrostic.
Look. Just let me show you what there is. I gotta have a couple of them here. Here they are. I don't need any more.
Oh, that's what I meant. Those are acrostic books.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
No, I don't need. I have a lot of them. Morris, you're in charge of getting these back. You're listening and putting them in this because I'll need them. I really will. Okay. You're in charge of that. What?
Porch looks like Thanksgiving.
Porch looks like. Yeah. That's the first time this summer.
Yeah.
The first time this summer that we covered the furniture. The first. Usually, no, that's waterproof. Those things. I mean, the furniture could take water, but we cover it so that you could use it after rain. But at the rate it's going, it won't have to be uncovered until Saturday morning. It's horrible, brother.
Look, they said Saturday now beautiful the whole day.
Yeah. No, not beautiful. Just
Gorgeous. Saturday they got rid of the
they got rid of the clouds.
Debbie's going to the White House.
Oh, that's great news. If anybody doesn't have one of these, let me know. Now, even though I did we put out 4 of these. Even though we put out 4 of these, it's a very good review for those of you who are going to read Ekha. So let's remember that Ekha is 5 chapters. The 5 chapters are original to the prophetic writing, and they're all acrostics. The first one being, let me open it up also. The first one being Aleph to Taf, just like you would expect in an alphabetic acrostic, meaning there's no mistakes, no missing letters, not mistakes. In the second one, go through all of them and you see that all of the letters are correct, except when you get to the 16th and 17th letters. So I'm going to pick on the guy straight ahead of me, Morris. What's the 16th letter of the Hebrew alphabet? You'll see it right there. All you have to do is go down. Look at verse 16 in your book. No, you don't have to. Okay, Ayin and Pear. But in chapter 2,
You're not recording.
I am in acrostic 2. In acrostic 2, go to the 16th letter and you'll go to the 16th verse, right? Go to verse Tet Zayin and read the first word. Ekha, chapter 2, verse 16. I'm not going to do anything we're not doing till Mars gets it. Ekha, chapter, what is it? Pasu. It's a pair. Now go to the 17th verse. Okay, what is that problem? The letters are reversed. The Pe and Ayin are reversed in the 16th and 17th letters. Hey, how you doing? The Pe and Ayin are reversed in the 16th and 17th letters. The normal alphabetic in Hebrew alphabet goes Ayin, Pe, Sadikof, Re, Shin, Taf. Wait, we have an extra one of those. Here you go. There's one right there. Oh, okay. So if you notice, there's a reversal in the first one. It was good. The 16th letter was Ayin. The 17th letter, 17th verse started with a pair, and then the rest of the alphabet. So all the alphabet is good except for those two letters in the second chapter. In the third chapter, the acrostic takes a different tack. It's 3 letters for each letter, each verse. It's 3 verses for each letter of the alphabet. 3 alifs, 3 bets, 3 gimels. You see that, everybody? Let's read just the first. Ani hagevid, first pasuk. 3-2 oti. 3-3 ach. And then 3-4 bila, and so on and so forth. So 3 letters for each. If you go to the Mars, what's 3 times 16? 48. Go to the 48th verse, go to Mem Het, and what do you find? Only Morris now, because he's the one that saw the 16th in chapter 2. What's the word? Yeah, you, Morris. Chapter 3, verse 48.
46, 47, 48.
46, 47, 48. So what's 46?
46 is
Pasu, sound familiar? It's the same word as the same word, pasu. They opened up from the word to break open, to break, right? It doesn't mean break in the context over here, because it's pasu alenu pihim. They opened up their mouths against us to consume us, in other words. So again, now go to the 3 verses after that, and you get 49, 50, 51. Mars? Huh? Okay, so it's ayin. So again, in the third chapter, there's a reversal. Everybody with me? Right? 4th chapter, Abi Mala. What's the 4th chapter, 16th verse? Go to 4:16, 4 Tet Zayin, and you get Peneh. So it's a pair. And then go to 4:17. Or it's Krichtiv, Ordenu or Ordena, right? So you have a reversal. So chapter 1 had the alphabet correct, 22 verses. The ayin and pair were in the right order. Ayin is always the 16th letter, pair is the 17th letter. When you get to the second chapter, 3rd chapter with its triple acrostic, 4th chapter, which goes back to single, you end up with the pair with the 16th letter, the 17th letter, and the 17th letter in the 16th slot. Pair ayin reversal. Now go to chapter 5 and look at the 16th verse. Nafla, nothing to do with an ayin or a pair. So go to the first verse, Mark. What do you get? What happened to the alphabet?
Disappeared.
It disappeared. To what degree did it disappear, Soli?
There's nothing, there's no rhyme or reason.
No, there's rhyme or reason. Not one letter falls in the right place.
Okay.
No, very important. There's, how many verses are there? Moises, how many verses in chapter 5? Take a look. 22. There are 22 letters in the alphabet. So it duplicates an acrostic, but it duplicates it not only without an alphabet, but you can't find one letter in the right place. You could have landed one letter in the right place.
You don't have all 22 letters. You don't have all 22 letters.
What do you mean by that?
I don't have alphabet, gimel, dot. Do I have every?
You don't have it at all.
No. He means that you
There's
don't have
22 verses. Do I
Aleph
have 22
opening
letters?
verse,
No.
Beth
It's
opening
random?
verse.
No,
No, I don't have 22 letters.
you don't have 20. You know how many letters you have of the 22? 11.
Yeah.
Half, exactly half. So everybody thinks
Oh, wow, okay.
that the fifth chapter is chaos. They say, all the scholars, Maza, for hundreds of years, let alone thousands, everybody says, oh, this is an acrostic. It's just not an alphabetic acrostic. That's exactly right. That's what I wanted you to say. Oh, what does that mean? If it's not an alphabet, what system is there? Oh, nothing. It just has the amount of verses that there are in an acrostic, which happened in chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. Even though 3 is a triple, it's still 66. It's 22, 22, 66, 22, 22, right? The middle one being the triple. It turns out, I'm letting you know from now, that there's a rhyme and a reason that nobody's ever seen for the last 2,500 years. And tonight, I'll try and show it to you. It's very exciting because nobody's seen it for 2,500 years. Clueless, nowhere, everybody, no one has the foggiest idea. Tonight I'll try to give you the foggiest idea. The way I'll try and give you the foggiest idea is by telling you the following. Not one letter falls in the right spot. You could have had, out of 22 letters, 22 verses and 22 letters, could have had one that fell in the right spot. You got that? Not one.
Yeah.
The amount of letters that are used at the beginning of each verse is exactly 11 letters of the alphabet are used in these verses. But none of them, of those 11, land. But it's exactly half. When anything lands at exactly half, Rachel, could you tell them not to run anymore?
No.
Thank you.
September 2nd. No.
So I just don't want to close it.
I'm looking the same thing.
You know what? I don't want to. It's gonna get warm. I'll lower the AC just a second.
Fine.
It's my life. I'm not
I'll lower it. You know why? Then you could, Barbara. Someone will come and help you now. Yeah, that door is like a wall.
One day.
That is, yeah. Just don't close it all the way. You can go until it's about an inch opened. Yeah.
I'm also.
You should know that when we have meetings here, you don't hear anything in the house because that's as thick as a wall. Yeah. They don't make them like that anymore.
My house in Brooklyn is 100 years old.
When we bought this house, 1999, that's 26 years ago, 25 years ago.
Wow.
No, 26. So these doors were sealed in the wall. Insanity. Sealed in the, you couldn't access them, and they're the greatest thing to have.
How'd you know they were there?
Oh, it was, you could see. No, it wasn't painted on. It was just in there, but you couldn't open them. And Doug, our handyman, worked on them. And when he finished, they will work. You know, they weren't touched for maybe 50 years or something. Yeah, right. So, yeah.
On this slide, I'm noticing, first of all, is ayin is the most pisukim starting. There's 5 pisukim.
That's correct.
And there's no pad.
I'm about to tell you, that
Anyway,
not only is it half, the interesting thing about this is that the ayin, which occurs in the wrong place, is the only letter that occurs in the right wrong place. In the right wrong place. Where is it occurring in the other 3 in chapters 2, 3, and 4? It's occurring in the 17th slot. Over here, you go to the 17th slot, and guess what? It's, take a look, everybody, at Pasuk Yud Zayin. You see it? And what is it? Al Zeh Hayad Aveh Lebenu, right? So it starts with an ayin. So there's one letter that's, I call it, when I write it, it's in the right wrong place. The reason it's in the right wrong place is because the other ones are all in the wrong place. So it's in the right wrong place. In other words, it's going at, no one ever caught this. Nobody ever caught this. Well, it's chaotic. Well, hello, there's ayin pair reversals. Well, hello, go to the 17th verse, but then go to 4 other verses of the 22, and they begin with an ayin.
Which is not that common.
It's not that common. It only happens in the entire Tanakh, maybe 2% of the Pisukim start with an ayin. It's very infrequently used. Over here, it's 25%. Because it's 5 out of 22 is about a quarter, right? So right away, it should catch your attention, and making a joke, very close for anybody's attention. No one saw it. I'm just being silly. I'm being silly. Nobody ever saw it. Sully knows it because he found it here. You never knew. He heard this before.
44 years ago.
So what happens? 5 of the verses begin with an ayin. One of them in the right, wrong spot, everything else wrong. Now let us backtrack from that and let us go back to Ekha. And let us.
Question about the numbers here?
No. Which number? Oh, yeah. I want to show you one thing before that. You could ask me after they know something. Hold. Take a look at the table on page 1. You notice that chapter 1 has there are 22 verses in 4 chapters, and the middle chapter has 66. A grand total of 154. Who's good with math? Soli, what is a 154 divisible by? 7. How many times?
22.
Huh?
22.
22. Try again. Is it 7 times 22, Soli?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So you end up with 77 verses and 77 verses, another way of saying it, correct? Now, take a look at the amount of words. There are 376 words in chapter 1. You know, by the way, everybody says you have a text that's been, it's been transmission and it's missing words and plus words and things, and blah, blah, blah. Except for one thing, that if you count the words, you see that chapter 1 is missing how many words from chapter 2, Mars? 5. 376 words, 381. I'm going to pick on you all night, Mars. Now, chapter 3 has how many words? Well, chapter 2 has 381 words. Chapter 3 has 381. There's only one thing. Chapter 3 has 3 verses for each pasuk, which means, of course, that the 3 verses in chapter 1, if you look at them in the chart, they're very short. They're like Tehillim verses. They're 6 words, 7 words, 8 words, 9 words, right? They're short. Whereas the other ones are triple the amount. But the fact that they end up at 381 mark on both of them means what? It's by design. The odds that you have a triple acrostic having the same exact amount of words as the chapter 2 is telling you, hello, it's on purpose. Good morning, right? Because the odds that it's accidental are ridiculous, right? Now, chapter 4, we shouldn't say chapter 4. There are 5 acrostics.
What? Do any of the letters match up the same amount of words in, say, Aleph and Aleph?
You could look. You should look it up. You should look it up. Chapter 4 has 2.
1, 2.
Yeah, you should do it. I'll give you a chart. You can look. Yes, I do. Chapter 4 has 259 words, and chapter 5 has 145. The interesting thing about this table, is that there are 1,542 words in Ekha. 1542 is 2 more than 1540, 154 verses. If it would have been 2 words less, it would have been 100 times, right? More, 1,540. It would have been perfect, right? So that sad to say, that didn't work. 10 times more. Sorry, what did I say?
Yeah,
10 times more. So but there's a rhyme and a reason to that also. It's not accidental. The 1540s are also supposed to catch your attention and go, one second. 154, it is 0. 1540, 1542. Why is it in 1540? It should have been. You could say it was a mistake and there are 2 extra words if you're not too intelligent. I'm just being silly, that's all. Or you could say there's a rhyme and reason, just like there's a rhyme and reason to the 381 words in 2 chapters that have no correspondence whatsoever, other than that there's a triple acrostic and a double acrostic. All good? Okay, you can turn the page. We're going to save time. And we're gonna skip, you'll notice that I put the table for the acrostics in Tehillim. By the way, there were 10 acrostics in Tanakh. There were 8 in Tehillim, 4 in book 1, 4 in book 5. That's what we wrote a paper about, extensive one, and it's in book volume 1, all of this commentary. There were 4 in book 5. There's Ekha, and there's, you all know the other one. The 10th one.
No,
No, Asher is the 8th one. Asher is the 8th one in Tehillim. I said there's 8 in Tehillim. There's 1 Ekha. Ishitayil. Ishitayil's an acrostic. It's the 10th one. It's the 10th one in Mishlei. The very end of Mishlei. So there's no accident on that, of course. And the fact that it's an acrostic and this is an acrostic and Tehillim's they're not independent, right? They're all under one prophetic writing. Ekha, Iyov and Mishlei and Tehillim and Mishlei and Iyov and Mishlei all they're a trilogy. They're a trilogy written as a trilogy, interacting with each other in many ways, many ways, and there is an intertextuality between them that's overwhelming. Their vocabulary, I need to say. So that's a trilogy. Then you go to Ekha, we know that, so that's written by Yirmiyah. We say, all of them, right? Psalms and the prophetic message of Jeremiah, right? So Iyov and Mishlei fall into that. Ekha, everybody agrees, is written by Yirmiyah because he's the one who witnesses the destruction, right? The 3rd chapter, if you look at the 3rd chapter and you look at the opening words, you'll see he says, Ani Hagivit, I saw this, I witnessed it personally. And that he's the Nebi who does that. And Ishitayil is from Mishlei, so therefore Yirmiyah. So there's tremendous correspondence, and therefore the systems used, listen carefully now, the system, the structural system used in the acrostics of Tehillim, we're going to leave Mishlei out of it for a minute. It's the same exact system, the same symbolism, and the same system for how it's done. So yes, you could say that another Navi knew the system. Our contention is of course that it's the same Navi and it's the same system because he's reflecting ideas with the same structural and symbolic numbers. To be discussed, we see if we get to it tonight. That said, the table that you see are the acrostics in Tehillim, and the first one you see is missing line 1, book 1, Psalm 9, 10. They're a combination. It's missing Daled, Mem, Nun, Samach, Ayin, Pe, and Sadi, and the 7 letters are missing. And no letters added to the end, total of 15 letters and 7 missing letters. The next one is 25. It's missing a vav and a kof, 2 missing letters, and a paired verse is added to the end. You say it every single, well, I say it, take it back. Every time you say Tahanun, you say 25, right? Is an acrostic, right? You know that? You knew that, right? So what is the last verse? Since you all say it all the time and you all know it, you could all look it up. I'm not going to tell you, huh? It's a good try. No, that is one of the pair letters in the acrostic. I'm not telling you. Somebody's going to look it up and because you've said it a zillion times. I love asking this question. You know why? You said it thousands of times, but when you ask it, no, thousands, you know, and you go,
I said the word pedeh, but I couldn't come to the second word.
Right. Pedeh, not peneh, pedeh. Yeah, or pedeh. Right, so say it again. Right, it's a pair letter added to the end. It's missing a vav, it's missing a kof. So you have 2 letters of the alphabet missing. One of the letters in there is duplicated. Take a look at the dash. since you have it open, read it. Abi,
بقى ويبارك ربه بسنقات حماس سنقوني
keep going.
شمران
No, the verse before the air.
okay. بقى بمعنى
Right. So 2 verses. So you're supposed to have 22 verses. So you take off 2 letters, you end up with 20 verses. There's 2 verses, 21, and the pair at the end makes it 22. Do you have 22 verses there? Yeah. Okay.
How come there's 2 aleph and no bet first?
There's not 2 alephs. It's Elohai Becha. The bet, right. Why it makes the second letter, we'll talk about another time. That said, when you get to the third acrostic, 34, it's missing a vav, not a vav and a kof, just a vav, and a peh is added to the end. That's because those 2 mizmorim are the same structure and respond to each other completely. The 37th, I want everybody to note this now. What letter is missing for the 37th? It's right there, 4 down in the list. It says Psalm 37, read to the right. What letter is missing? The ayin. You see that?
Yeah.
That one has no ayin. Everything works perfectly, and then you're missing an ayin. Okay? And then 111 and 112, which you read 111 every Friday night. Every Saturday night at Minha, Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, Hashem.
You all know that? But they're not, right?
Right.
Everybody with
Yeah,
me?
Hashem b'chol about the soy yeshinah.
Exactly. So 111 and 112 are sister mizmorim. They duplicate the acrostic structure the same. 10 verses. 8 of the verses have 2 of the letters of the alphabet in each of them. You say this every minha, so I know you all know it by heart, and I know you all aware of what I'm saying upside down and inside, because you've read it thousands of times, all of you. So I know you know this. Of course, nobody knows this. 2 of the letters of the alphabet are in each of the first 8 verses. And then that gives you 16. 22, you're missing 6 more. And the last 2 verses, in verses 9 and 10, is 3 letters of the alphabet, right? You got that? Again, there's 10 verses in 111 and 112, right? There's 10 verses.
Yeah.
Each verse has 2 letters of the alphabet. One is Aleph Bet, Gimel Dalet, right? And the 8th verse, it stops 2 letters of the alphabet. And in the 9th and 10th, it has 3 letters of the alphabet. So you have 16, and 3 is 19, and 3 is 22. Good? That happens in 111 and 112. And then 119, you all know, is 8 letters of the alphabet, 8 verses for each letter of the alphabet. Therefore, 8 times 22 is 176. It's 1,005 word mizmor. It accounts for 5% of all of Tehillim is in one mizmor, right? Good. The last one is the one you all know well. You call it Ashrei because you read the last verse of the 144th mizmor. And the 145th mizmor starts with Tehillah David, and that's an acrostic. And you all know from school that it's missing a noon, right? It's missing the noon, which is the 14th letter of the alphabet. And Mars Kindi, when you're missing the 14th letter of the alphabet, what are you left with?
8 and 13.
Thank you. You didn't say that fast. That would have been right. Okay. Now, I'm going to skip the role of number symbolism because you all know it. And I really want you all to turn to Ekha overview on page 3, and we're going to read it very fast. I'm going to read it very fast because we only have 30 minutes left of the class, and I want to cover some material with you. In Ekha, Yirmiyahu describes the destruction and desolation of Jerusalem and the nation from various points of view throughout the lament. Various points of view. The 3-dimensional view gives the reader deep insight into the nightmare at the time of the destruction and allows for a renewed hope at the end of the lament. When you hear a thing from different points of view, I always explain when I give this class, in the past, you should think of yourself in a theater, and you're in a theater where it's completely black and there's no lights on the stage. There's only 2 lights on the stage, 1 or 2 at the same time. And it's a spotlight, and you can't see anything but the face of the individual who is speaking, which is in a play. You can imagine that happening. The spotlight goes on, and a guy starts to talk. the spotlight goes off of that guy and goes on the other guy, or the spotlight could be on both of them at the same time. So have this imagery in your mind if you want to get a very good sense of what's going on.
Okay.
Chapter 1 of Ekha is a complete acrostic containing all the letters. We said that. And in this chapter, there are two speakers. The observer, only Mars can be, remember this. The observer, verses 1 to 11, and Jerusalem, verses 12 to 22. Right? So therefore, Mars, if there's an observer in 1 to 11 and 12 to 22, what does that mean is happening with the 22 letters? 11 of them are the observer. I didn't ask you. 11 of them are the observer. 11 of them is the city when the city starts to talk. Good? So again, now, the reason I'm saying this is important to be aware of is this. We talked about structural things now about in the beginning, pair, ein, reversals, etc. This is content. When you read it, of course, it went out of its way to take half the alphabet and attribute and let the speaker, right? Think of the stage. The one on the left, let's say, is the observer. The one on the right is the city, right? So if it did it half and half, it's by design. Therefore, the alphabet is playing into the picture of what we know that it used it. It has an objective. Good? The observer opens with a rhetorical question. How does a city sit solitary that was full of people? It's a rhetorical question, of course. How could such a thing be? How has she become like a widow? She that was great among the nations, princess among the provinces, how has she become a vassal? By the way, as I said I think I said it in the podcast, it's very hard these days to read Ekha. More than ever, we're in the middle of a war. We're in the middle of an existential war. And we're really in a little bit in the middle of an existential thing for the Jewish people in the world now, with anti-Semitism, what it is. So for all my life, when I read this, I was always referring back to World War II for something, not something to relate to, for the most relatable thing in history, perhaps. But now, with the situation being what it is, it's extremely difficult to read this and extremely difficult to not ask a lot of questions. So let's hold off on that. This poetic question finishes the first contrast in Ekha between Jerusalem during her glory days prior to the destruction compared to her current state of destitution. The narration of Zion's suffering spans verses 1 to 11 in chapter 1, the first half of the alphabet. Aside from two slight interjections, now listen where the interjections are. Verse 9b and verse 11b. Verse 11b means the end of the first 11 verses, right? 9b is 2 before that, where the city cries out to God to take notice of how abject she has become. If you'll, Morris, Ronnie, if you'll take a look at verse 9b, you could just read verse 9 if you want. And anybody, it doesn't matter. Mark, I'll let you read it, Mark. Take chapter 1, verse 9. Just read verse 9 for itself. Now you see that? Up until there, that was a continuation of the observer making a comment. In the beginning of that verse, it's what was going on all the way up until that point. He said, there is none to console her.
Right.
At that junction, she yells out. So remember I told you, think of the stage?
Right.
The light now goes on to the other individual standing on, right? It's a woman, right? Because the city is described as la to her. And she screams out, when you were reading it, I wanted you to do that. Re'eh Adonai, Adoni, look at me. God, look at me. Look at what's happening, right? You can read the English if you want, anybody, right? And then go to 11b, and you could read it again, Mark, read 11.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right. Both times, look, she screams out, look, God. Like the question, when you say look, it's like this. Look, what's going on, God? You're looking at the most horrifying things going on. So she screams out. The observer has been commenting on the terrible things. So it's her. He's talking about her. So she screams out, look, God, right? Yeah, Adonai. Then when she screams out again, she says, yeah, Adonai, a second time, right?
Not paying attention.
Huh?
God's not paying attention.
God's not doing anything. When you tell somebody, look, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you allowing this to go on anymore? Look, right? So Jerusalem's speech is interrupted. So then, now listen, Jerusalem's speech is interrupted in verse 17 by the and we're going all the way now through chapter 1 to verse 17. Jerusalem's speech is interrupted in verse 17 by the narrator's statement in the third person that there is no one to console Jerusalem. In verses 18, 20 to 22, the city continues her speech, justifying her punishment, addressing, I didn't read it. I'm sorry. I should have read it to you. So she takes over, right? She's been speaking in verses 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. When you get to 17, in the content, what happens? The narrator, take a look at verse Yud Zayin for a minute. And she says that he says, Persasion biadeha, in Mahemla. She's spreading her hands. There's none to console her. That is an interjection. Everybody with me over here? Please nod if you are.
Yeah, good.
Marskin, do you with me? There's an interjection by the guy. The whole time now, the light's been on her. She's been talking about how terrible things are. The light goes on for a second, and he makes the statement. There's nobody to console her. It's horrible. And then it goes back, it returns after that to, in verse 20, Re'eh Adonai. She keeps telling God to look. Re'eh Adonai, see God, Kisarli me'ai hamarmanu nepach libi b'kirbi, kimaro mariti mihuz shekilah b'bayit kamavet sham'u kinem hani en menachem li. She says, there's none to console me. He ended off before by saying that there's no one to console her, right? In verse 17, and she says there's none, and so on and so forth.
But she's also using look.
Look, yes, she used before. Yes, yeah. How could you she keeps saying, screaming out. You have to think of she's screaming out. She's crying out in agony, right? Etc. Now, I don't know if I did it here, or I'm going to read. Narrated statement. In 8, the city continued speech justifying the punishment, addressing the nations, requesting that he punish the enemies who delight in her downfall. She asked that God, Tavor, look at the last verse, Tavor kol ra'atam lefanecha, all their evils should come before you, God, ve'oleh lamo kasher olalta li, and do to them what you did to me. I'll call Peshai for my sins, ki rabot amchotai v'lebi danai, because she is in.
It ends like 137. Similar.
It only ends like 137 in the sense that the Al Daharot Be'el ends off with, don't let them get away with it. That way, not the words, the idea.
Right.
Yeah. So
But I'll call Pushai there. She's assuming.
She's saying, I'm suffering for what I did.
No, for I did, Yushalayim, or she's.
She's speaking, the speaker is speaking for Jerusalem.
But
I did.
But Jerusalem coming, look at me, I'm desolate because of what the people did, not because of what I did.
No.
Up till now.
That doesn't mean she's denying she did anything wrong. She's just saying, look what they're doing.
No, I want you to punish them the way, you punish me on my sins. Kol Pishai
is talking about
Me, Yushalayim is coming and saying, for all my sins, punish them the way you punish me because of my sins. But up until this point, Yushalayim wasn't coming and claiming that they made sins. The people sinned, and I'm desolate and barren.
And who made sins?
Yerushalayim
Right.
is talking here.
Yes.
Right, okay. Over here, it's telling you, please punish the other nations, like you punish me, I'll call Pishai.
For my sins.
For my sins.
Yes.
Up until this point, there was no my sins.
No, I didn't say that. You're right. Yes.
Right.
She's saying, but don't let them get away with it. I did wrong. But they're animals.
But we don't know that Yisrael did wrong until this pasuk. We don't. It's a change.
When you say we don't know, of course you know. The nation, it's a given. It's a given that you're being punished for what you did wrong. It's a given. It doesn't talk about it yet. That's all.
He's saying that she is talking about the city. He's making a distinction between the people and the city.
No difference. No difference. I tried to tell you that before you started talking. When she's talking, who's she? She is the speaker representing the people of the city. The city, when you say the city in the characterization, city, who's the city? You, all the people in the city. The city is the speaker speaking for the city. So you call it she, the city. You speak the characterization, the whole city. Think of all the people in the city all together standing behind her. And she is speaking. The city is speaking. The city has a talk, right?
Right? We're not talking about the city, we're talking about the people.
Of course. So now, there's something, I said it twice, nobody caught it. Where did and throughout this was more, something happened that should remind you of something I said before. I said that while the city is talking, there's an interjection at Pasuk 17. Why is the interjection at Pasuk 17? So anybody reads this is clueless. Clueless. They go like this. If the reader chose at this juncture, because she's talking for verses 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So it's, coming towards the end of her statement. Well, it could have come in 18, it could have come in 19, it could have come in 20. But 17, isn't that, no, more than that. Isn't that the place that the ayin, right? The ayin should have been in 16, and it's in 17. So, and in chapter 5, there's only one letter in the wrong place. The 17th slot. It's in the 7th, it should have been in the 16th slot. But it's in the 17th. You come over here and you read it, the guy, the observer looking at her, the observer looking at the city interjects. Well, it's in the 17th slot. You are being told something, right? You are being told something. You're being told, you get it? You get it? I didn't do that by mistake. The reason nobody, I'm making a joke, man, just to lighten up a little. The reason nobody gets it is because nobody knows what this guy says. You could read it thousands of times. No one ever realized that the city was talking. Most people, I'm telling you, I'm not kidding. 99% of the people don't know that there's an observer for half, that the city's talking for the other half, that there are interjections. Now you know that, and that's what I said. When you'll read this on Monday night, you'll say, "Oh, you'll read what the observer says. You're going to notice what the city says, and you're going to notice the interjection and what the interjection is. You're going to notice that when she talks, she goes, look, with so much power. And then you see at the conclusion, so carefully, because this will conclude chapter 2, 3, 4. These conclusions are like this. Don't let them get away with it.
Right.
Pay them back for what they did.
They're worse. But then what about 9b and 11b? Those are also interjections.
11b is the end of the talk.
11, but
it's perfect. We didn't talk about it.
Okay.
We didn't talk about it. But 11 is clear.
Right.
Yeah, at the end.
Okay.
So in the last few words, The observer comes in, you transit to the observer. At the very end, when the observer, I'm sorry, transit to her.
Yeah.
At the very, very end, it transits to the next speaker. That said, at the end, Mars, you make a comment now. At the end, what happens at the end? Don't let them get away with it. When you look at, God forbid, Nazi Germany, when you look at October 7th, the first thing that you think about when you see those movies, I never would look at the films. I'm talking the ones that were on television. So when you look at them, what they're doing, which doesn't show you what they really did, it shows you the ones that you could look at when the guy's going away on the motorcycle, the animals, and right, those horrifying scenes. So I know personally, I think, I hope you burn in hell for an eternity. I hope they get you. I hope they kill you. I hope I think of the most horrible things should happen to them. Do you?
Yeah.
Right. So every section closes with her, the observer, whatever, doesn't matter, with this idea of pay them back. And so does Al Naharot Babil. Don't let them get away with it. So Morris, what's your opinion? I'll ask you about why it does that. Do you have an opinion?
Of course.
I don't know, it's an emotional statement about how
This
you-
started to go to Esther.
Justice. You want justice.
Say that again?
Justice. You want justice.
There's a deep, deep, deep rooted thing in a human being to say, how can I don't get it. You can't let this injustice go by. It's not fair to a point of insanity. I mean, there's something about the whole world and its creation and everything that there is, and there's a God, and
We said they can be shot.
what
We
happened?
said they can be
How-
shot, which is our
okay.
basic principle.
So
We don't want-
she says, Pishai, okay,
Right, but there's still,
I wasn't that.
there's still.
There's an implication behind
That's
it.
a much worse.
I have very bad sense, yeah? Okay, it's good to see you. Okay, you can leave the door open now, yeah.
They're also.
Yeah, they're all sleeping, yes, exactly. Yeah. So there's something deeply, deeply embedded in the human condition, human race. It's like in your DNA. You can't let this go by. She says it, and she says, even, okay, I did wrong, but they're animals. The person who's saying that is not an animal. I did bad things. I didn't do that. These are animals, the Nazis. They slaughtered men, women, and children. Millions of people slaughtered in cold blood. So you can't let them get away with it, right? So what do you do with the fact that they do get away with it? It's very difficult. They got away with X amount of them got away with it. They went, they lived their lives. They got away with money. Let's say they ran away with money to Argentina. They lived their lives. Okay, what's his name got caught? Israelis. Eichmann, right? But a lot of them lived their lives and things. Everything was fine. So there's something very, very, very important about these concluding statements and the fact that the Navi includes it, because the Navi is, I think, that's why I asked you, Morris, I want to see because of reality revisited.
Yeah.
I think the Navi is not giving in. He's saying, I understand fully how a human being has that need for justice, things have to get squared. And if they don't get squared, you can't cope with it. So you turn to God and tell him to square it.
It's also all you have, because like if the suffering is because of your own sins, you could blame yourself. You can't blame God. It's just, So
Yeah.
all you have is at least let them.
Right, because they're bad, they're evil, they're evil.
What I get.
That was Yonah's struggle. That was Yonah's struggle. Wasn't that Yonah's struggle? Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, Yonah says, I should go tell them to make teshuvah, let them burn in hell. He takes a slow boat to China. Right, that's what he does. Remember, the boat to Tashish is like taking a slow boat to China in that way, because Tashish was very, very far to go all the way south to, and the furthest distance you could go. So he's taking a slow boat to China. He doesn't want to deal with it. And of course, God doesn't accept that, right?
So could you imagine in our day, there's an Avi and he says, we're going to go to Hamas and have them make teshuvah.
No,
right?
which ones? He tells you now, you know who?
Sinwar.
Yeah,
Sinwar,
one
yeah.
of those guys, and no, and then you go to them and they make teshuvah.
Right, can't handle
They're
that.
kidding. They think and they say you're all right about everything. You know what the Israelis who lost, you know what they'll say? You should die. And what do you mean you're sorry? You can't say sorry. And God tells you, no, you accept the teshuvah. So of course, that's that. No, I'm gonna cut us all off now, only because I want to. We did one chapter. Hold on. Let's see if we could read a little bit more. Let me read first. In verses 1 to 19, in 2, it opens up with the same thing in chapter 2 with Ekha, the rhetorical question. How has Hashem covered the daughter of Zion with a cloud and anger and cast down from heaven to earth the beauty of Israel? Remember not his footstool in the day of his anger. In verses 1 to 19, the narrator resumes speaking, beginning with an objective, albeit impassioned, detailed description of how God destroyed the city as if he were her enemy. That's important. He talks about God like an oyeb, the enemy. Talks about God as he's the enemy. Verses 1 to 10, letters Alf to Aleph, Yud, followed by a subjective description of his personal distress or what happened. Verse 11 to 12, letters Chaf to Lamed, verse 1 to take the form of a detailed list of God's punishment. So for 10 verses, it's a detailed list. You did this. Morris, read some. Who has English? Anybody?
Where are we?
Read verses 1 to 10.
Ten.
Sue, can you read very fast? And just
How the Lord has clouded the daughters of Zion in his wrath, how he cast his splendor on Israel.
go to the next verse.
The Lord has demolished and no compassion on the inhabitants of Jacob.
Next one.
He served an inflamed wrath to the grandeur of Israel.
Next one.
He drew his bow and drew against us as an enemy.
Next.
An enemy, really. The Lord,
As an enemy,
right.
like an oyeb. He did it like an enemy.
The Lord was like an enemy. He demolished Israel, demolished all his
Again, enemy, right? He was like next one.
He stripped his shrine, his garden, like a garden. He destroyed.
Next one.
The Lord's forsake his altar, cursed his temple. He gave us to the hand of the enemy and to the walls of the palace.
Okay, you got the idea of he's listing. You did this, but he refers to Hashem as the enemy. He doesn't talk about the enemy. You did it like the enemy, right? Then this is important. I want you to see it in the middle of the paragraph on the bottom of page 3, the last paragraph. When he sees the heart-wrenching imagery of the starving children in the square of the city, he breaks down. This is the first time in Ekha, he breaks down. What breaks him down? Children starving and dying. That he can't cope with. So he breaks down and he says his eyes are spent with tears and his heart is in a tumult. Kalu bademaot enai hamarmaru ma'ai. My eyes are you could read the English, AB, verse 11.
My eyes fail from the many tears. My innards burn. My liver is poured on the earth over the disaster of the daughter of my people.
Right.
As the infants and the suckling babes faint in the city squares.
Faint is the word is they're dying. They're dying of hunger and disease, whatever. So he can't cope with that. That is the I said in the podcast that till today, the thing that I can never ever forget is when I watched the pictures from Nazi Germany and it's the ghetto and there's cars going by and vehicles, whatever, and there's people walking and there's 2 little children sitting on the sidewalk with their legs over, the sidewalk. A little child with his sister I don't remember, 3, 4, and his sister is, she's taking care of him, and you see they're dying. And you see they have no parents, and you see they have nobody. But nobody stops to even talk to them. the most heart-wrenching thing you'll see throughout Ekha, when you'll realize this, you'll see that the word olel, baby, is used again and again and again to describe the most horrifying scenes. There's the cannibalism that the mother is gonna come into play, and the sucklings are suffering, and he's going to use the word olel when it doesn't mean suckling, when it means to do. If you look at the last words of chapter 1, he says, Tabor kol ra'atam lefanecha, let their evil come before you. Ve'olel lamo. Now in Hebrew, the word olel could mean a suckling, a little tiny baby, 1 month to, right, a few months old, or infant, a real, even younger, ve'olel lamo. But in Hebrew, the word olel means to do.
Inflict.
Action, an action.
It says inflict here.
Inflict. Okay, they're paraphrasing, right? Ve'olel lamo kasher olal tali. It's just oversimplified. Do to them what they did to me. So in Hebrew, you could say that, do to them what they did to me, with the word do, but do doesn't mean do, it means baby also. So you will see in Ekha, that word is coming up on purpose. He's closing with, or do to them, because that reminds you of their actions, what they did to little babies, who are innocent. And that's the ultimate thing of, you can't let the innocent are just suffering, and it makes the theodicy come to the for. How do you let such a thing happen? It's unfair, and so on and so forth. So I wanted to take you to that, and we're at the end of this class. So the time is up, but I want to say that remember when you read chapter acrostic 3, the triple, that acrostic, everything changes. Where it's not talking, the observer is not talking. I want you to just remember this for yourselves when you read Ekha. The observer is not talking, Jerusalem is not talking. The witness starts to talk. The writer, the author, Yirmiyah, the prophet. And if you look at the opening words of chapter 3, Ani hagever ra'a oni b'shevet ibrato. Oti nahag vayolech choshech v'lo or. Ach bi yashuv yafoch yado kol hayom. Read those 3 verses in English and emphasize in English the word about when it's about himself.
I am the man who has seen the affliction by the rod of his fury. He conducted and led me to darkness.
And led me
in darkness and not in light.
Keep going.
Indeed, against me, he will again turn his hand all day.
Right? So he's talking, I witnessed all of this. I saw all of this. And he will go on. There's no time to translate it, but he suffers all kinds of suffering, right? And then translate, for example, verse 14, maybe, quick, in English.
I have become a laughing stock to my people, their song all day.
Keep reading.
He filled me with bitterness, sated me with wormwood. He has ground my teeth with gravel and covered me with ashes. My soul has forsaken peace.
Okay, stop. He gets to the 7th verse and he uses the word zachor, which is always the thing that begins relief, right? Noah, of course, that's the turning point in the flood when the water starts to refeed, the exact middle verse, the middle words, the middle everything. It will be the opening word. Take a look at chapter 5's opening words. Word. Right? It will be remembered. Now it transitioned. And for the first time in Ekha, when you get to the 8, he's going to say, Zachor teskor Yeshua alai nafshi, Zot ashiv. And then in the Het letter, what does he say? Soli, only soli. Okay. The words are Hasdeh Adonai kilo tamnu kilo kalu rahamav. All of a sudden, the tension breaks. God's Hesed, right? Hasdeh Hashem. They're not finished. They're not complete. They're not done. You can read it, Abi. Read it. Verse 20. Verse 20.
Not every morning great and trust in you.
No. Verse 21.
This I will cry into my heart. No,
Yeah,
that's
go
it.
ahead, read it, that's 21, go,
Okay.
go.
And therefore I will wait.
Good, now, the first 8, the letter 8, right? Of course, that you're all supposed to realize, go.
It is due to the Lord's kindness that we have not ceased, for his mercies have not ended.
See, you haven't had one word until here of a break. Now you talk about Hasdei Hashem, and that they're not over. And keep reading. Hadashim labikarim rabba emunatecha.
Every morning. Great is the
Say it louder and clearer.
New every morning. Great is the trust in you.
Keep
The
reading.
Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will await him.
Now look at the 3 tet letters. Marskindi only. What's the first tet letter? Verse 25. Gimal, verse, the 10th letter, which is the verse 25. Let him read it. Good. Read the next one, the next tet. Read the third one. See? Tob and Tob and Tob. Hasdei Hashem. Good. This is good. This is good. This is good. Is everybody seeing the break in the tension here? Is everybody seeing that it stopped recalling all the horrors? It stops talking, whether it be the observer or the city. And now he's the one. And in the beginning, he talks about all the terrible things that have befallen him. But when he gets to the 8th letter, right, which is the 880th word in the text, and so on and so forth, there's all kind of symbolisms going on in it. At that juncture, he talks about, he even uses the word hadashim, new, hadashim labikarim, right? New things every day. And that will continue all the way through until you'll get to the 4th chapter. The 4th chapter will return. I'll try and read it to you, because again, we're limited. The 4th chapter, I think I write a little thing about it.
Yeah,
The final chapter, no.
Page 24.
Chapter 4. Like chapters 1 and 2 opens on a rhetorical question. Jeremiah continues to speak in chapter 4 to verse 16 in the third person about the nation and the city, as he did in chapter 2. He uses graphic detail to describe the famine, suffering of the siege, capture of the city, fate of the various objects, and he goes from verse gold to animals to children to the poor, and finally the elect. He laments over their current state while reminding them that they are to blame. The priests and the Kohanim and the Nevi'im, Sheker, killed innocent people. The kings thought they were invincible. The entire nation since surpassed. He writes that of Sodom and Amorah. In verses 17 to 21, the nation speaks in the first person plural. Anybody surprised that it's verse 17 when the nation starts talking again? No. Okay. First person plural, recognizing that the loss of their national independence was due to the fact that they relied on other nations and upon their king instead of God. In the closing words of the verse of the nation, like chapters 1 and 3, they pray for recompense to be given to the enemy. Verse 22 closes on the prophet declaring that their punishment for their sins has been completely expiated, and God will no longer punish them and will punish Edom.
So why the upbeat in
instead.
chapter 3?
You should all ask me why
Is
he
chapter
says
3 upbeat?
yes, not upbeat.
No,
It
it's
breaks
right
there
there.
and then it slides back into it.
Okay, why did he change it?
Well, you can understand that the covenant is in effect and God's mercy is not finished, and this will end.
So shouldn't this be the end of the book? That part should be the end.
We're not going to end the class today. We can't go to the end, but the end of we'll talk about that another time. I got a beauty. Listen to the podcast.
Okay, started.
The podcast will take you all the way to then and give you this full perspective. There's 4 of them. There's 4 of them. Okay, wait. Let me just give me 1 minute. I want to say this very quickly. Wait 1 second. Oh, yeah. Look at the end of verse 4, chapter 4. And what does he ask for solely in the last pasuk, Morris, last pasuk? Whoever reads it first will take it. Morris or Soli. What does he say? Tam avonech. Go ahead.
בת ציון לא יוסיף להגלותך,
Lahaglotech.
הגלותך, פקד עוונך, בת אדום גילה על חטאותייך.
Bat Edom, daughter of Edom, he has revealed your sin. You're going to get it, right? Well, you should all ask me a question.
Why אדום?
Yeah. Who did the destruction of the first temple? Babel. If you look at the Al Naharot Babel, what's the last verse? Bat Babel asher duda gamat. Right? Right?
Right, so what?
Edom is in the previous verse. So it says Edom on Yom Yerushalayim, they were jumping up and down in the streets saying, tear it down, Adu Va, right? So Edom comes up in Al Narod Babel at the very end, and then he turns to Babel.
Right.
But over here, he mentions Edom, but he doesn't mention Babel. Babel are the ones who perpetrated everything. That's what you call a blatant omission. It's blatant. You're supposed to go, okay, I understand the Edom because but there's an answer. You should all start to figure the answer. Babel is the enemy, right?
Yeah.
The Nazis, right?
Yeah.
They're coming to kill you.
Okay.
But you are my neighbors. Edom is the neighboring nation. Edom is Esav. We're brothers. You were allied with us. You were going to fight with us against them. It's the equivalent of saying, silly example. In Poland, you were my next door neighbor. We ate together for 25 years. You used to come over to the house. They were going, but we were friends. We worked together, went business together. We had barbecues together. You turned me into them and killed all the family. How could you do such a thing? So those, you say they should burn in hell for that. You understand? Right. You go to a guy who suffered the thing. So the whole nation, Edom was the neighbor. They're connected. It's Edom. The Torah presents Edom as the brother, right? You were supposed to be allied with us in the war against them. And what did you do? You turned on us and you cheered it when we were burning down. And the cheering scene is like the scene of in Gaza or in the West Bank when they're cheering when the things go. They're cheering in the streets. They're giving out lebas in the street. People are dying, right? So that's that imagery. I just want to tell you the blatant omission, what I think it is. And in the fifth, just to let you know quickly, because it's already 5 to 9, we're 2 more minutes. In the 5th chapter, what happens is this. It's chaos. He's going to list things, like I said, in the 5th chapter. Then he's going to get to those concluding words. The ayin being in the wrong slot is the only one. How many other ayin verses are there besides that one? 4 more? 5. How many don't have a rhyme or a reason? There's 22 letters in the alphabet. 17. Again, in this whole work, 17 is the number that represents the problem because it should have been in the 16th slot. It's the 17th one. So 17 is the number that he'll use again and again and again. He'll say it by 5 verses begin 9, 17 don't. You made the statement. You put it in the 17th slot, you made the statement. You did it in all the other ones, you made the statement. You made the speaker doing the 17, you made the statement. Do you know what? So, because there's no time, you need an hour for this. What does it mean that was done throughout all of it? Quick, and not in an hour talk, in a few sentences. What is it telling you with this ayin problem?
Is the ayin 70? Is that
so the ayin represents the old order.
Right.
In the 37th Mizmor, the ayin is missing. You go there and there's 70 ayins in the 37th Mizmor, the acrostic. The only letter missing is the ayin. And what do you find there? The Sadiq. If the word starts Sadiqim Yishuas Yishkenu Adiyah. So 7 represents, as we've said it many times, the old order. 8 represents the new order. That's why the letter Het is the switch in all of Ekha. I'm saying this fast. In no time. But just for a second, listen. See you, Cuckoo. So what happens is that this lamentation represents a world gone awry. You're supposed to find a pair, which is 80, not the number that represents 7, that says 8. Now you took 8 and you replaced it with the 7. The old order became corrupt. That's what we always talk about. I will talk about the fact that you go to the temple and he said it in Ekha. The priests are killing people. They're responsible for the death of, they're supposed to be the protectors, the Kohanim. When you go to the temple, what do you go to the temple for in the ancient world? You're poor, you're hungry, you're emotional, you're sick. You go to the temple and you get relief because you can get, God forbid, you're starving. You can get food, you can get help, you can get support, you can get shelter, and instead, you find Don Corleone over there, right? The most horrible thing that you could imagine. It's something, imagine like the Christians, the children are with them and they're pedophiles. They're the most evil human beings in the world. So he says, you killed your kings, didn't think God have anything to do with your success. Everything is all corrupt. The whole government, whether it be the religious establishment or the political establishment, is corrupt. Therefore, Ayin has taken over. Ayin was great and it was good and it represented the best things. It represented the old order that was pristine, and they took it and corrupted it to the point where it ended up evil, sad to say. So he's using that to say, well, that's in the wrong slot. The pair should have been there. The covenant should have been in place. It was thrown out, so to speak.
17 and 18 are really 7 and 8. Is that?
That's correct. That's correct. It's the ayin and the pair is 70 and 80. And I show in a very extensive chart over here, which we can't do now, but this is every ayin pair, and there's a rhyme and a reason for everything that goes on over here. The ayin and pair occur in 70 verses together, right? How many verses do they not occur at all in? 17, right? It's going to say it on an atomic, it's going to say it on an atomic level. On an atomic level. How many verses have no ayin and pair? Out of 154, only 17.
Wow.
How many verses do they come together in? 70. It's going to happen. What I'm trying to tell you is you can't, this is not a midrash. It's fact. It's no matter how you're going to touch it, whether it's in the content, whether it's in the reverse, which you see, no matter how you're going to see it, this is going to be emphasized again and again. And of course, that's the way of prophetic writing. He uses structure to inform on content. The content, they inform on each other, and that's what you'll see. Look, there's the podcasts take 2 hours. Tonight we spent an hour. We did as much as you can. If you want, you can listen to them. But even if you don't listen to them, when you'll read Ekha, it'll have more meaning. Inshallah, Be'ezat Hashem, we're going to hear a great salvation for the nation. Hashem is going to hear our prayers. We know that the war is about to bust, sad to say, any minute now, and we need Hashem's protection in nothing less than a miraculous way. So it's very hard, you got to pray for a miracle. But we have to pray that we are zocher to that, and that Hashem has mercy on us and gives us time for our young nation to have the time to inspire it and for it to become what he wants. And it's a long way towards that, and to give us more time to do it. And we'll see great success and great salvation. All right. Ike, good to see you.
Always. Thank you. I'll see you this weekend.
All right. You got it.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.